terrorists into Israel, and on the most part, they were proud. They don't care if they die. All they care about is killing Israelis and killing Jews.
Why is it that the Palestinians cannot go by dialoguing with these people through other international bodies?
Straight talk, no holds barred.
That's what Hamas did, and Hamas say they didn't do it, but Hamas lied.
You contradict what America's report. You contradict Israel's report.
The Liberation Organization died. The children will rise up and fight for liberty.
Biggest conversations from around the world. Borderlines with Ireti Bakare-Yusuf. Fridays at 4 p.m. Let's talk.
And welcome to Borderlines, the only show that takes you beyond borders. How are you? How has your week been? Today we're staying in Africa, but going quite a few miles, a few thousand miles east, I believe it is, right? So today, let me give you an intro and then you'll get it. Today we're going to be delving into the complexities of the Sudan conflict. Sudan is the third largest country in Africa. It has been plagued with multifaceted crises, with historical roots, all of which has significance on today's contemporary situation. Now, I have a wonderful guest with me who is going to be helping us to understand what's going on. He's going to help us to understand the impact that these historical conflicts have on the development of Sudan. As of last year, I think it was around April last year, the conflict erupted again, this time between the Sudanese armed forces and the Rapid Support Forces. Now, my guest is joining us all the way from the UK, if I might add. He's not in Sudan, but he is Sudanese. It is my absolute pleasure to welcome engineer and Sudanese political analyst, Sabry Omer. Sabry, did I pronounce your name correctly?
That's right. Yeah, Sabry Omer. Thank you for having me, and thank you for everyone want to listen to us. Thank you. Let's go and see what we can do.
Excellent. Thank you. My name is Ireti Bakare-Yusuf. You will be able to call on 0201-277-0993. Female line is 0201-465-7190. You will be able to send a WhatsApp as you're hearing my conversation with Sabry. I would like you to send a WhatsApp to 0809-597-5805. So tell me something. Sudan has had, like I said in my introduction, several civil wars, military coups. What's causing this? And even with that cause, what do you think is seeding it? And how has it sort of impacted the development of the country itself?
Firstly, thank you, and thank you for the audience. Sudan's conflicts taking back since the Sudan independence because of the conflicts between the marginalized and the centers. This is one of the real issue of the Sudan. But recent war happened in Sudan between military and rapid forces. This is interrupted after a revolution were happening in 2019, and we get rid of the dictator leadership. He was ruling the country over 30 years, and we've got the civil rights movement, and we get him out. So after that, we had the civil rights. We have a civil government, which has been appointed by the Sudanese people. And back to October, 25th of October 2021, there's a coup by the government, by the military, which is General Burhan. And let's stick with him, General Burhan. He's the one who's been accused for committing genocide in Darfur, and he's the one who has organized the genocide in Darfur. So, as I said, the problem is not just started today. It's really deep. And if you look at the history of Sudan, every time you've got war, you got Darfur, you got South Sudan recently separated from Sudan, and you got the East, and you got parts. It's just an unstable places, which is like some people feel are, are not being treated well. The Sudanese people are there. Actually classes, first class, second class, third class, and there's a...
Did you say there are 3 classes in Sudan?
Well, yeah, what they understand.
Okay.
Sudanese, if you speak to him, he will say that to you directly. And there's 2% of the Sudanese population who consider themselves as Arabic, or they take the Arabize, and those people have been sent there since the British left Sudan in 1956, and they've been appointed there, and they've been, as we say, don't want to use somewhat, it's just been loyal to the colony, and so just been in power, and just ruling the power, like that's the way. So they play in the table, family after family, family after family. We know the faces. So that's why you have all this movement, you have all this conflict all around the Sudan, from north to east to south to west.
Tell me something. So when we talk about this class, so it sounds like there's also a class war in Sudan, as well as, ethnic wars, political wars, etc. Did you say that the Arab Africans, and I'm going to ask you we're going to talk about that a little bit later, because you have Sudanese who are conflicted between being Arab, being African. You have the world that sometimes, even Africans who sometimes, and if I may say, foolishly say to them, you are not African, you are Arab, and all of that nonsense. So we'll talk about that a little bit more. But I'd like to talk about the leadership and this history of this conflict history that you have, and the fact that, you've talked about military coups and everything. Is it often that the Arab Sudanese are seen as the first class? Is that what it is?
Well, you can say that the Arab Sudanese consider themselves as the first class. Is not just by themselves. Neighboring borders, Arab leagues that get supported, and they got ideologies. Take it back. I mean, after the Sudan's independence, they choose Sudan identity, and they say that Sudanese should be Arabic countries, and whereas there's million of nation, they don't speak Arabic, they have their own language. Back to West African. So those people who are said, that's what we're saying, 2% who are being, control Sudan for since there. And the issue of this problem, those people are who marginalized, they are thinking they need to get recognized by the government. They need to do, as we can say, it's just like the conflict between wars and power. So that's why Sudan is non-stop since the independence. This war after war, as I said it before. So what happened recently, let's concentrate on the situation now. What happened on the 15th of April 2022, military government with leader Al-Burhan and the Brotherhood, the political party, Al-Bashir parties, who are not happy with it after they had in a coup on 25th of October 2021, of the coup over the civil government. So they try to get the Brotherhood back to the power, which is the old military now. It's just being controlled by the Brotherhood as not Sudanese militaries are militaries being ideologized, being controlled. Nowadays, you can see it just normal citizens. He will go there and he give the order to a general or commander. And some activists, he said in America, he will say in a live, and we say the air forces should attack the place X, place Y, place Z, city X, city Y, city Z. Tomorrow you see the air forces attacking and bombing. It's just not right. On the other hand, the rebel forces is a part of the Sudanese army, and Sudanese army, they keep saying that one. Rebel forces are part of the Sudanese army. So the thing is, every Sudanese who will agree that this is the two armed forces, very well equipped, very well, trained. So they are fighting over the power. Everyone, he want to control the country. He want to get the resources. The difference between them, the rebel forces are the diverse. You find all the people from all background of Sudan, for everywhere, people who have feel themselves, they are marginalized, they join the rebel forces. And the Sudanese army, as I said, being controlled by Brotherhood. So this is the conference going there. Even recently, some negotiation being initiated by United States and by the Arab League and the African Union as well. But the armed forces, they don't want to go. The Rapid Force, they've been in every place, in every platform to try to get an agreement to stop this war. But the Brotherhood was controlling the armies that are refusing. They want to go back and they want to bring al-Bashir back.
Okay. There was a recent renewal by the UN Security Council to enforce or to reinforce the arms embargo. You've mentioned the military quite a lot. You've mentioned the army and all of that stuff. Do you think that would help? Would an arms embargo put an end to the crisis? Because both parties obviously have arms.
Well, I mean, we need the international community to interfere. We need our brothers, our brothers, support from Nigeria. Nigeria has been one of the key who are, supporting Sudan. Don't forget the agreement, Abuja Agreement 2005, is by President Obasanjo. So we need our brothers to come and convince, because my people are desperate. The people are, displaced. Nowadays, I'm talking to this pandemic, there's a cholera, malaria, you call it all, and there's a flood all over any places. Some cities are being washed by waters. And don't forget, there's a mining, illegal mining where they use cyanide and use the chemical stuff. That all that chemical substance are being washed away. So it's just going to be really humanitarian crisis and pandemic. So we urge our brothers, our neighbors, our international community to force or to put pressure on the Sudanese army, and particularly General Al-Burhan, to convince him to come. But we're looking for that one.
Well, it's interesting you say that. So let me read you this quote. The Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces will remain the head of state with sovereign powers even after the elections, not only during the transitional period, but also after the elections for up to 3 or 4 election cycles. And I swear to God that the military establishment will examine Sudan again with a microscope, and there will be no leniency. That's a quote of Assistant Commander-in-Chief of the Sudanese Armed Forces, who basically has said they're going to be there for the next 15, 20 years. Where is the hope? Because even if, Nigeria is involved, and I think perhaps, the whole of the EU, the African Union, the AU, and even ECOWAS, the whole of Africa clearly needs to come together, because Sudan, the situation in Sudan is the world's largest displacement. How will they be able to actually stop the sort of person, the commander-in-chief that makes that kind of statement, that's determined to be there for 15, 20 years?
Well, let's say that one. Firstly, the displacement estimated recent figures is showing like about 15 million people are being displaced interiorly. That's from Sudan, from the city to other city, let's say from Abuja to Lagos, from just that interiorly, and about 10 millions to other countries, borderline, Chad, Egypt, Ethiopia, South Sudan, Kenya, Uganda. So it just really, there's a crisis there. There's a humanitarian crisis there. But the history tells us, I mean, when the military or military leaders are having a hope, they have a delusion that are thinking they're going to control the country. That's what happened in many African countries, sadly. And I don't know where to do it. And those people, if you think about it, you're not going to live there for the rest of your life. After 65, you're going to take a tablet, you're going to take the medicine, you're going to check your blood pressure every time. And you displace generation after generation, my dad, my uncle, me, and my kids as well. So this is unfair. Since we need, as an Africans, we need to think about our generation and our people and what we could do for them. And this thing is not diamond and everything. He kept it here in the Western banks. He kept it there. You send it to Egypt, you send it to Dubai. It's not going to help you. And you're going to die, you leave that one. That's the message I want to say. But we could go around and we analyze it. I will have idea, but I'm not going to go through that one, try to analyze and tell you what it is. But it's just moral things. You need to be a human being. Think about it. Million of people, and just old woman, 85 years old, she will die. She don't get a paracetamol for a headache. And young kids, small generation now, like 3-4 years, there's no education. There's no schools. I don't know what those people are thinking. Sorry, but this is what happened all over. I mean, for most of our.
Well, you're right. We've continued to see that across Africa. You know, you see despots who are determined to be there for the rest of their lives. But often it is the people. It's the power of the people, the mass of demonstration and resistance to continued, not just bad governance, but to aggressive and dangerous governance. That's often what gets rid of those despots. So tell me, what are the chances? What's the CSO strength like in a place like Sudan? Are they coming together? Is there a way? Is there any hope of them forming some sort of coalition to actually, unseat these people?
Well, I mean, it's an active negotiation, an active dialogue, and active people as well in Sudan. They call every time, the Sudanese civilians, they call every time same. And there's two voices in army forces. One of them, they say, let's go for negotiation. Let's put the in for this war. But the other part were being led by the Brotherhood, particularly, and one is the leader of the Brotherhood, Ali Karti. So that guy, he gives the order for everyone. He say like, no peace. We've got to stop this one. And the thing I want to highlight it here, as I said, Sudanese people, I think those 2% that think themselves Arabic. What they think there's infiltrators, whose people are coming crossing the borders. Those are Chadian, Nigerian, Chad stuff that are coming to colonize us. They are thinking themselves they're superior, they are coming from different places. Even as me as a Sudanese, they dispute about my nationality, many of Sudanese. So kind of those people who are thinking themselves, they wanted to be Arabs, they want to be there. So they are not calling for peace, but there's a hope. There's a hope, and there's an active negotiation with some wise leaders where they are thinking to put the in for this war.
So what I'm hearing you say is that there are leaders who are negotiating with the RSF and the SAF, like local leaders, Sudanese leaders who are pro-democracy. Correct? Is that correct?
Yes. There is a Sudanese democracy, and there is some general in the army. I want to mention Shamsuddin Kabashi. He had some agreement in Oman, Manama, back last years, but he got an order from Brotherhood, from the other general, to stop that one. But there's so many generals there where they're calling for peace, but it's not up to them, it's up to the Brotherhood, who are want to go back and control the country again.
Indeed. We are streaming live. I forgot to say earlier, we're streaming live on YouTube. We're streaming live on Facebook. You know our address by now, Nigeria Info 99.3 FM. We are live, and we're also on social media: Twitter, Nigeria Info FM Lagos, Instagram, Nigeria Info FM Lagos, and I know you're watching us from all over the world, so please feel free to put your questions for Sabry either in Facebook, in YouTube, or send us a WhatsApp on 0809 597 5805. Right now we are in Africa and we're talking to our brothers because we are our brothers' keepers, and it's important that we know what's going on with our neighbors, our brothers on the other side, however far they are. Let's talk about what many would call the re-emergence of military leadership, and it's young military leadership. So almost the sort of Sankara-like military leadership, the military leadership in Africa that, so far are very popular, are standing up against the West, are saying Africans for Africans. Those military leadership who seem to have sort of defaulted to what their fathers, if you like, the previous leaders did. Could the emergence of that be what's actually encouraging the likes of the Brotherhood, the RSF, the SAF? Is it possible?
Well, as I said, you mentioned now there's Sankaras and there's Ibrahim Traore in Mali.
Yeah. You've got Burkina Faso. You have.
We've got some Sudanese now. They are comparing the leader of the RSF, Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo. He is the one who are calling for a new Sudan. We call for Sudan for Sudanese, and we have to be, all of us. We are all being marginalized. We are all being led by people, a minority of people who are stealing. Even those people are belonging to other people, but they are not representing the minority. They are representing themselves because they're stealing all the sources, the goals for them family. Only there are people who have been leading this country for a long time. So even those people from the minority, they are still supporting the RSF, the leader, Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo, because as I said, the RSF is diverse. You'll find everyone from everywhere. If you look at the leaders of the armies and the politicians, we don't have the RSF. They don't have a political party to support them. They have only the people who from the marginalized area, people who are thinking, being marginalized by the government, by the Sudanese, or that not thinking themselves being represented. So those people are who are supporting the RSF, and they've been growing and growing. And when this war is started, the armed forces are thinking only it take 1 week or 2 weeks to finish them. But they don't thought about this is not about RSF. It's about Sudanese, about other people. You've been fought with them since they're independent. You always try to do it, and you did it to the South Sudan. And so I mean, there's a hope. We've got leaders. I mean, RSF, they are calling for reform to the Sudanese armed force, reform for all the government, for all the country. That's the idea. And if you had the soldiers in a field where they fight, they are calling for freedom, they are calling for equal right between all Sudanese.
But this is interesting because it's the same RSF rather that took control of one of the big mines in Sudan, the Amer mines, and the gold from there goes to Dubai. It flows through Dubai, and as you've just said, a great deal of the money doesn't seem to come back into the country for development. So why then would the RSF be the more popular of the two warring forces? Is it because they're saying the right thing? Is it because they're multi-ethnic? What is it they're doing right?
It's after we said RSF used to be everyone. They said that part of the Sudanese army, and
Right.
you made about the mining goals and everything. So they were together after 25th of October 2021, the coup over the civil governments. At that time, both of them, RSF and the army, they are together. They want to take the powers. But after that, when the Brotherhood were controlling the RSF, the control at that time, RSF, they controlled the armies, they want to come back. And the general leader of the RSF, he had to listen to the civil government led by Abdullah Hamdok and the other parties who's been very active in the Sudanese issues. So they told him, we see the example of the government what are leading and what is. So they come for the agreements after that one. Before the 15th of April, there should be an agreement. The Sudan government should be a civil government. And that agreement has been negotiated for 3 months. So they are coming to the signing date, whereas the Brotherhood, they said this is going to be dangerous when they take the army out of the power and they keep army away to the borders and keep the army as to be army. It's not involving a politician. So they are thinking about that one, the only one. We're not going to agree on that one. We're not going to sign it. So other parties, politician parties, they come and say, this is the only pathway for Sudan to avoid these conflicts. If we agree for these agreements, that's the way we're going to. So the leader of the RSF, he completely agreed with the civil rights, and he said to them, sorry about what happening on the 25th of October, the coup. It shouldn't be that one. I did the mistake. I support that one, and I'm sorry. But you're right now. If we're leading that way, it's just going to lead to the war, and we don't want a war. So I'll agree with you, this government, to go to the civil government, the army
To go to democracy.
to go to democracy. The army and the Brotherhood, they completely refuse because they've been in power for a decade, so they don't want to do that one. So
Indeed.
they start the war on the 15th of April by attacking RSF. They say, okay, if the civil right or civil government or civil party, they're thinking they're backed up by RSF, we will destroy RSF and we lead to control and we bring al-Bashir back. So that's why West, a leader of the RSF, he get popular and he agree of that agreement, and he's still now he call for negotiation. If they call him tomorrow, stop the war, he will stop the war, and he always was initiating the dialogue or the peace negotiation.
Right now in Sudan, inflation is an incredibly high 218%. Starvation, to name but a few. Talk to us about how the people are coping right now. It's literally impossible to imagine inflation of 218%. Where does the money come from? How do they eat? How do they buy? How do they sell even? How do they trade? What salary could actually make up for that, especially when you have, most of the source, the revenue is literally being split between the, RSF and RAF?
Well, it's really sadly what's going on in Sudan now. If I told you would be a family, millions of family or hundreds of families that haven't had a meal today, they haven't had anything to eat or to get a clean water to drink. There's a million of them around Sudan. It's really sad. And most of the family in Sudan that rely on the family, a border like me, I have to be responsible for my mom, for my family, like for my intimate family. And don't forget my extended family as well that I keep asking. So 99.9% of the Sudanese are relying on them family who has been abroad anyway to send them money. The situation there, I can't describe it for you. I had a conversation yesterday with my mom. She said in the night time, when we go to sleep, people are sneaking to the kitchen to look for oil and onion.
Wow.
That's what's happening now in Sudan. I sneaking in the kitchen to go inside there instead to get some oil, onion, anything's a part of the bread to eat.
Wow.
It is happening all around. And there's like in the capital Khartoum, there's like a meal for a day. People are queuing 5 miles to get just a pot of what we say.
A bowl of rice.
A sort of lentils.
Yes, lentil. Yeah.
So, I mean, that's the situation now in Sudan.
And what are the UN? What's the UN doing there? Because I saw a report today where it said UN warns of perfect storm in Sudan as aid efforts struggle. What's the UN doing there?
UN recently they opened a border between Chad and Sudan, and that's where they try to get unnecessary or things where people can get to eat. They opened recently last week, so some of aid get in Sudan, but it just west part is still not reaching the other part because it's really difficult to get there. And now it's autumn, it's a raining season, so movement is really difficult. But that's what they agree in Geneva last month about to get aid into Sudan, and that's the only way to get the aid to Sudan. In the Red Sea, where they're being controlled by the armed forces, the aid it came there, but it's not reaching to the right people.
Yes, indeed. So let's talk about external influences in the war and the socio-economic. What is America's play in all of this, and has it been a positive impact or negative?
Say the question again.
What is what is America's play in all of this, especially in the more contemporary history where we are today? And has it had a positive impact or a negative impact?
Well, I mean, it is have a positive impact because America who put pressure for last negotiation in Geneva to get this aid to come. America is always try to talk to the two parties where to come together. And traditionally, what we know is America has been involved in every conflict in the world. And I don't want to follow that route, but America at the moment now in Sudan, they're interfering positively. But we need an outcome of that interference. We need to stop this one. We need the aid to reach to the people who are not having a meal for today. People don't get a paracetamol for headache. People are dying from cholera. So we need an agent interference, or we need an action.
Yeah. Sudan has quite a close historic relationship with Egypt. What are the Egyptians doing?
Well, Egyptians are doing to the other parties. Egyptians are not doing anything. Recently, last week, Egypt are returning about 3,000 Sudanese refugees in Egypt that have been forced, put in a buses, put them back to Sudan. Sudanese are in Egypt are not getting treated well, and we know The support of the army and all the militaries are coming from the Egypt. Egypt are benefit from Sudan being weak. Egypt are benefit from this war. If we say that when Egypt, who are, a designer of this war, who are, a leader of it, because since the revolution happening in 2019, continually Egypt are interfering in Sudanese policy, are interfering in the Sudanese decisions. So they do everything because of the Nile River, because of the sources. You mentioned earlier about the goals and everything. That's what Egypt is benefit from. And unfortunately, it's not by force, by people who are thinking themselves, are Egypt closer to them because they are Arab, and they can do everything to do. Egypt not doing to us Sudan from South Sudan, or Sudan from Sudanese from the west, or Sudanese from the east. So they are thinking more culturally and more related to Egypt than as a Sudanese.
Indeed.
So Egypt are not doing great. Many of Sudanese, they are suffering.
Yet they're saying they're calling for a ceasefire. So it's double speak, for want of a word.
Well, they calling for ceasefire. That's what they call, because if there's any negotiation happening, Egypt, they try to initiate a negotiation. If it's any progress happening, Egypt try to hijack that negotiation by creating another platform, by creating another negotiation, by trying to encourage, by trying to get the attention of the world. And because Egypt need this war to be continued, they need a weak Sudan's.
Why? Tell me why. Why does Egypt need Sudan to be weak, given that every time the conflict breaks out, they get an influx of refugees from Sudan? So what does it benefit Egypt?
Well, different way, many things. Firstly, Egypt benefit from the Nile River. That's the That's
who has, so is that
Egypt
let me just, if I may just interrupt you, is the Nile River where of course, during the massacre of 2018 and stuff, 2019, quite a lot of people who were killed, some 120 apparently reportedly, were thrown into the Nile River. Is the Nile River shared? And I'm not talking about the line, I'm talking about control and ownership. Is it half shared by Sudan and half shared by Egypt, or does Egypt have the full control of the Nile River?
Egypt, historically, they have to make sure 99% of the water flow into Egypt, because they are rely for it. Agriculture, irrigation, water. Egypt as a desert place without the Nile River. And there's no life without the Nile River. Add to that one, Egypt don't have any natural resources as gold, as agriculture, as everything, as what we're saying, like if you need anything, you're only coming from Sudan. So, and as I said, historically, Sudanese from back to before even the Britain come, there's an Egypt and the Turkish who are rolling to Sudan. So they are thinking still, if you talk to the normal Egyptian, they think there's no country, they are not recognize a country called Sudan. They are thinking of Sudan, the part of Sudan is Egypt. It just as a part, they are not obeying them. So by obeying them, that's why they are controlling the armed forces, and they're controlling the Brotherhood, and they're supporting every conflict in Sudan. And any negotiation, anything, they got a manifesto from the Egypt to do that for them. And I've been myself living in Egypt and an experience the personal life there, how the Egyptians are thinking about Sudan and what they can say with the open mouth. There's no country called Sudan. It's just Egypt belong to us.
Wow.
And we control it where we want to control it.
Let's talk Russia. What's the relationship between Sudan and Russia? Because of course you've had, I think it was al-Bashir who has said to Russia, stand up to the West. Don't let them control you. So they both clearly share disdain for the West. What else is the relationship there?
Well, Russia is key player in all the world. Is a key player like America.
But is he a good player or a bad player?
He's a key player. I mean, that depends.
Okay.
So I will not say he's a good player or bad player. It depends. You see it what happening in Niger, in Mali. We see the Russian interference in Central Africa. We see Russian interference in Chad. We see Russian interference. And everyone in Africa, he knows what is Western are doing in Africa. So let's not take us to the different conversation, and we take us this conversation to another levels. But we know that Russia are one of the suppliers of for all Africans, armies and all Africans. We know they got all the military equipment from Russia, an open market, easy market to access. So I can't say it's a positive or negative. Now I know about myself, but I don't wanna go in that way, but it's just gonna take it in the direction.
I understand, but we must talk Russia. Let me just answer this call. Right, I'll open up the lines now. You can all call because we only have 10 minutes remaining. 0201 277 0993, 0201 465 7190, and the WhatsApp is 0809 597 5805. We are talking about Sudan and the conflict, the crisis, the humongous displacement going on in Sudan. Some of you have been calling, and you can't call till I'm ready. I'm coming to your calls now. Hello? Okay, you have to call back. Right, until the lines, once they can sort themselves out with the line. I know you don't particularly want to discuss Russia, but we've got to discuss Russia because, like you rightly said, Russia is all over Africa. Russia is present in all the new sort of military juntas in Africa. Russia is present in especially places where you have high conflict in Africa, where America has always been present in Africa, where America has always had not a fair relationship with Africa. It is widely believed that Russia is coming to Africa for a more fairer relationship. Would you agree with that?
Well, personally, I don't agree with that one because historically, we know as an Africans, what happening with the Western and what ways Western has been doing for Africa in general. Let's say that one, to be honest. And we know the interference there is what reason behind it. And everyone knows that one. So I leave it to the audience to think about it. I'm not going to say, exactly what's Western, but we know that interference there. Them agendas. There's some aid, humanitarian aid, some aid is coming, but small it come and big is going out. So simple as that one. And that's what Russia doing and what America's doing. And don't forget China as well.
Well, I was going to come to China. Yes, everybody's circling around and trying to get the biggest part, of the pie. And America is trying to hold on to the biggest part of the pie.
Yeah, that's what's happening now. So as I said, we're seeing what Ibrahim Traore doing. So we need kind of revolution with a new generation to think about Africa, to think about wars. Even we've got this wars, we could share it with other people. As I said earlier in this conversation, we only have about 65 years old, and after that one, we're gonna not feeling well. So maybe most of us gonna be in the other world. But we are not minding to share our wars with Russia, with America, as all of us as a human being, to share and live in this planet and do the right things. But with the current leaders, with the current mentality of this, most of African governments, most of the African countries, we're still gonna see Russia, we're still gonna see America, we don't have a decision, we're still gonna get Egypt to control our Sudanese and impose them agenda in there.
I have a question here on WhatsApp. It's from Mawuti Inikoyi, who says, "Good evening, Cecilia and your guest. It seems Sabry Omer is sympathetic towards the RSF. If truly RSF is for the marginalized Sudanese people, why then did they attack El Guinea, the capital of Sudan's West Darfur state, and killed innocent Sudanese who have nothing to do with the war or the Sudanese army? Why is there ethnic cleansing in Darfur?" Thank you for that, Mauton. Yes.
Oh, thank you for the question. And really, what you said, 99% are right. But we're talking about the war happening since 15th of April last year. We're not talking about the genocide happening since 2003. And I mentioned earlier the design of the genocide as General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, who was the army leaders. And at that time is the call al-Janjaweed, which is the other militias, whereas being controlled by ideologies, and they committed genocide. And if he talking about recently what happened in Al Junaina, what happened in Al Junaina is a massacre. It's really sad. But let's think about the problem. Who did that problem, and who was giving the civil, the people a weapon to fight against RSF, and who are tell them like go and fight a big armed forces. As a simple as a young, I was a woman, give them a weapon and say go and fight.
Okay,
and that's really sad, and that's really sad. I'm not sympathized with RSF, but I see as a truth what happening there, and I can tell I've been witnessing all those problems in Sudan, and historically I read about it, so I know it, and I can see where's the RSF heading now, and what is lead to this war now.
Indeed. I've only got 5 minutes left. Oh, actually 4 minutes even. I want to talk about the AU, the African Union. So in 2019, the African Union washed its hands of the Sudan's crisis. And let me read you a quote. "Sudanese stakeholders are the sole authors of their destiny at this critical juncture in the history of their country. In this context, stresses that there should be no external interference by whomsoever in the process of resolving the current crisis." But here's the thing, you've just told us, I mean, it goes on and it says, to suspend with immediate effect participation of the Republic of Sudan in all AU activities until the effective establishment of a civilian-led transitional authority as the decider to remain actively seized of the matter. Here's the thing, you've and quite rightly, you've just told us, look, we need everybody involved. We need everybody to come to our aid. We need everybody to condemn what's going on. We need a mass demand for democracy in Sudan. Yet, the African Union says this. And then, how then do we complain, or can one complain, when you have the likes of the RSF and the RAF taking over?
Well, I mean, as I said, I'm still calling for our brothers and the African Union to interfere. It is what is happening now. RSF always are first people are going there. Recently, Kenya, the president of Kenya, who are called for negotiation, Uganda, Museveni, Saudi Arabia, Jeddah. So all those platforms for negotiation of the peace, the Sudanese army are not there. They're refusing there. We said we need to put a pressure on the Sudanese army earlier. That's why I said we need to put a pressure of the Sudanese army and the Brotherhood to stop interfering in making decisions for the armies. and let's go to stop this war. Let's to think about Sudan. Let's to think about those people, about the next generation.
Well, we've come to the end of the show. Look, Sabry, I would like to give you a minute. Just tell us what we as individual Africans can do. What would you like us to do, and how can we support the ordinary civilians in Sudan? You have a minute to do that.
Oh, thank you. I've just wanted people to know this. They got brothers in Sudan and they got families in Sudan there. At the moment, some of them, since yesterday, they haven't had the food, and there's a real humanitarian crisis going over there, and there's a genocide going over there. The genocide is not started today, and the war of Sudan is not just starting in the 15th of April. This is historically, it's been like for a problem between wars and power, and this is historically grievance, marginalization, people who are fighting for them right. So we need your help. We need you to talk about it, make the world to think about it, make the people to be aware about what's happening in Sudan. And if you can support, but anyway, if you can show that to your government, local government, try to protest, tell them to put pressure on both parties. I'm not going to say it's RSF or in both parties. Stop this war.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. Sabry Omer is an engineer and a Sudanese political analyst. Look, Sabry, we're going to ask you to come back because we want to keep educating. We do. We must. That's the one thing we as Africans, and especially on borderlines, we keep educating and raising awareness on what's going on beyond the borders of Nigeria. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me, and thank you for the audience. I'm looking forward to see you again.
Thank you. Have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you, Lakawai. Thank you.
.3 Nigeria Info. We are more than just radio. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Nigeria Info FM. Check us out on Facebook at Nigeria Info 99.3. Follow us on Twitter at Nigeria Info FM and on Instagram at Nigeria Info FM Lagos for live updates as it happens. 99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk.